In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an awesome free custom branded intro clip based on the free assets that you get in your Camtasia library. Check this out. So, let's learn my 5-step quick process to get the job done real fast. Let's dive in. Hey, it's Gord here. Welcome. If it's your first time here and it's your passion to make great videos, become a ninja at video editing and learn more tips on how to succeed with video and marketing on YouTube, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the bell notification icon so that you don't miss a thing. Here we are inside Camtasia, and we're in the library under the motion graphics folder for intro clips, and you can see there's something here called fading squares and fading squares 9.1. This is going to be the asset that we're going to transform today to your own personal branding, and you're going to see how easy it is to do it with my 5-step process. You can easily just add this to the timeline at the playhead, so if we had it here, it would drop down, or you could just drag it down onto the canvas. Okay, but what we're going to do now is demonstrate it first. So as you can see, we have a nice motion background and all those squares came up in an interesting sequence in gray and the text came out, and then now you're going to see things fade out in a sequence. It's very cool. Now contrast that for a personal branded one where you have a logo, sound, the timing's changed, all kinds of additional text effects, motion graphics, subscribe button. You're going to see how to do this with my 5-step process. Let's get going. Now let's begin step 1 of the process, which is assess the asset. Understand how it's put together. As you can see right here now on the bottom, I actually took 2 copies, the fading squares and then the fading squares 9.1. First, I want to show you that you have something called quick properties. If you just wanted to, with this example, change out your title, name, TechSmith, the subtitle where it says Camtasia here, change the color, and then the background, and you're done, then this is great. You know, TechSmith introduced this feature to make it simple for a lot of people that don't want to dive into the details that are behind the scenes with these, complicated, sophisticated library assets. And in contrast, the basic one before they came out with the quick properties capability, regardless, as you can see, there are no details or quick, easy ways to do it. So with this version from the library, we would always have to go to ungroup to see the details of what's there. So I just want you to know that as soon as you go to the 9.1 version and ungroup, you're into the same scenario. All of a sudden, the quick properties are gone, and we're into the case of having to undo everything and take our deep dive, which is what step 1 is all about, and we're going to do that now. Okay, hang on a sec. So I've changed the way the screen looks shrunk the size of the canvas so we can look at all the tracks that are here and appreciate what goes into making this cool asset. First off, you can see we have a bokeh background, which is the bass track here. We have something that runs about 12 seconds in length. I often like to turn the track off and then just sort of scan or scrub through to see what goes on. And as you can see, we have all these nice squares that come up. They all grow in, and then you can see them, they flicker a bit, which is an opacity variance. And then as they start to fade out, they shrink and disappear. So that's kind of telling you what we're dealing with in terms of the fading squares and the sophistication. And I'll turn back our bokeh track on. So now, as you can see, each of those squares are shapes that go all the way up, and some of them have animations. So I just wanted to highlight those to show you that there are many shapes, and then there's a whole bunch of the shapes that have animations on them. We'll look at the animations in a sec, but first observe that all the shapes, you can see they're staggered. Their start times differ by just a little bit, a few frames, and you can see the effect of that by how they grow in all at a different rate from left to right, which is very cool. And likewise, it goes in reverse on the way out. So you have them shrink on the way out. So this is, part of the hardcore effort that went into designing and putting something like this together. Now, if we look more closely and we see that we have, let's just take one particular shape here. And that's this one here highlighted in the gold rectangle. You can see we're looking at this square, and watch as we go through it. You can see it's fading. Its opacity is changing as we go through. And if we go and we look at the animations that are here, the purpose of the animations here has been solely to adjust the opacity. So see here, we start out at 80% opacity. Then at the next point where the animation is, it's gone to 60. And then in the next one, back up to 80, then back down to 60. What you're going to see is a pattern throughout this. So whether I'm on this square or I go to this square here, down here, you can see we're dealing with, if I go back to the first animation, now we have 95, and then we go, the opacity changes to 75, and then 95 again. And then likewise, you're going to have another similar approach on one of the other squares in terms of the alternating opacity. They're sort of alternated in a sequence of pairs. There's 95, then we go to 75, and then we go to 95 again. So let me just show you this little picture I put together to give you an observation of what's going on here. So I created this picture to show you that only these last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares are actually ones that the opacity is varied throughout. These are the squares where the animations are applied. That's the whole purpose of the animations in this. So I showed you that depending on where the square is located, so these two that are sort of outlined with a red rectangle, they go through 100% opacity down to 90, up to 100, back to 90, and so there's eight animations across the board. As you can see, I'm demonstrating just by clicking. So this shows you that the sequence is repeated throughout. So that's for each of these squares. So because these two are red, the 190, 190 is the sequence that seems to be repeated for both of these squares. Then you have this one, the green square I have here. The opacity range was used 95, 75, 95, 75. So if you're looking at this picture, you can see that these two green ones have the lower opacity general than the ones that are in the red. And then the outer one has a sequence of 80, 60, 80, 60, etc. for the opacity. So this is something that you're going to want to consider when you assess what you want to do with the asset for your personal branding, because different colors will have different effects based on what's going on in the background and the colors that you're using. Step 2 in the process is to change the color scheme to match your branding. And in our case, that means to change the color of all the squares here to match the color that we know that's in my branding, which is right here with the GI. Okay, so I just put that on screen. And because we have the 9.1 version of the library asset down here, we have the quick properties here. Just get that to show quick properties, which allow us to just click, and with a single click of a mouse come, and boom, we just, by clicking the eyedropper on the color, we have the colors changed everywhere, including the squares that have the opacity variance, which makes it, super fast and super easy. The next piece in this step is to replace the background. We want to have the right motion background to match with our branding, and I have that already selected. I already have it here in my media bin as an asset, but with the quick properties tab, you have the ability to change the background right here. They show you. So you can click this X here, click import file, grab my motion graphic, which is right there, and voila, there it is. It's all in and nicely sorted. But I do want to move that a little bit, so I'm going to have to ungroup things. And to this point, we haven't even had to open up this nice asset, but now we're going to, in order to do the rest of what we want to do. So first, I'm going to ungroup now. There we go. Now that I've ungrouped, you can see that we have everything in here. And as we saw earlier on, there's all kinds of shape elements with animations and text boxes at the top. And in order to just tune my background the way I wanted it to fit with the squares was just, I wanted to go in a tiny bit, and just stretch this, out to get those nice beams to show on the side, just to the exterior of the squares. Okay, so that was just a minor tweak that you would have to obviously ungroup things to go in. Step number 3 in the process is to make text updates and additions. So what I've got here now on display is the original with everything ungrouped and the original colors and everything, and you can see the couple of lines of text there. And beside it now, what I've done is sort of like jumped ahead and have my finished product here on the right, and we're going to walk through some of the changes that I went through to now produce those added elements. So first we're talking about the text and the updates. So if you look here in the original, and I scroll up because there's a lot after we get past the shapes, you can see there's just the 2 lines of text, and when I highlight them you see them there on screen. Now in parallel, if we come to my finished product version, you can see there's a lot more that goes into finishing out, and we're going to cover these elements, but mainly let's go through the text stuff. So first I want you to appreciate that the intention of this, as you can see, is to show people this card sort of intro clip shows that my YouTube channel, and every Thursday I put new videos out. There's a subscribe button here. I show my branding, and I tell you what my channel's about and my tagline. So it's nicely packed in there. And there's also here, there's a music piece, which you're going to hear later. But the core thing is there's only a few elements of text that have been sort of added. So there's this box here, and then there's this box here, which has my name in it beside my logo with the text unfolding. And what you can see by that is, with that one, is that I've used a behavior. With this one, I've used the behavior of not just fade, but I've added pop-up, and I've tuned it accordingly so that the text letters unfold. And if you can see here, these 2 arrows show that I've modified the property. So if I adjust the loop time, I've increased it to 1.25 seconds so that you can see the letters unfold in the hinging process, a few at 1 or 2 to 2 at a time. And then the offset I've made quicker to make it unfold a little more quickly. So you tweak with these parameters, and on the exit out it's a shrink, on the in it's a hinge. So hence you can see how my text and my name comes in and unfolds. It's pretty cool. Next, the first text item only has a fade, and what I've done is I've kept consistent with the original, and I didn't change anything there because it just had a fade. Everything's been running, with like a fade. So it's the same techniques I basically applied here to the text on mine. And then I've just added learn, apply, transform, and new videos every Thursday, and they are working with the same fade behavior. So that's pretty well it for text. Step number 4 is add new design elements or modify the existing ones. In this case, with the fading squares, I mostly had new design elements to add, and we're just going to take a quick look at what those are. As you can see here, right at the beginning, I put in this cool little burst with a spin of my logo, and the colors burst out. And then as we get a little further in, you're going to see I have my logo again there pop up. And then we're going to see a subscribe button and a couple of bursts. You see a little burst thing here, the subscribe button scaling up, and then another little motion graphic accent here. So all of those are motion graphic elements that have been added, and that's what this step's all about. So let's look at the first one. So if we go in here and we see here's my logo, I scroll up, you're going to see here I have something called motion this element right here, which is called motion animation 0588, and I'll just let you see what that is all about. This is in my media bin, so it was added through the import option, but here it is now just to show you. See how it nice bursts, and it only lasts about a second, and that's all I needed it for. And if you ever want to slow down or speed these things up, you can just add, through right mouse button, add clip speed and play with it. But for our purposes here, I'm just showing you that I put that burst in but behind. But what you should notice as well is that you can see here I had to scale it up in order to get it to fit with my logo. So you can see it could go anywhere. But you play with that for the purpose of what you're trying to achieve, and then you can work with it better. Okay, so that once we got the burst in, but the burst came in, and as you can see I have it nudged up against the shape here. Well, in the scheme of things, I wanted the burst to finish with my logo paint just before the shape started coming in, which was this adjacent to this shape in terms of the timing of things approximately. And then here's the logo above right here. It's also here in the library. as an asset. But you notice I have a custom animation here. And if you look here, we go to the end keyframe. You can see here under the y-axis I have a 360 degrees because I wanted to do one circle spin. So if we walk through this from the beginning, you're going to see as I go through in the course of the second, as the burst is there in the background, it spins the logo once to the end. And then I have space where the logo just sits there as the burst finishes out. Then the next time you're going to see my logo is right here when we start with the pop-up of my name. We already had the text with the pop-up of my name, and it used the property pop-up and fade. So all I did was just copy, because you can select both of these with the shift key there. I can copy selected effects, and then you can just paste those effects onto the copy selected effects, paste the effects onto this item here, which I have already done, and you can see that they're there. And so they come up together as the same hinged item and work together. So that logo was, again, just from here in my media bin and scaled to fit with the execution there. Next, I have my subscribe button. And if we scroll along, we're going to see there's the subscribe button at the top. And you're going to see, if I click on that, we're highlighted here. Here's our subscribe button. And you notice the only thing I did was play with the clip speed because I wanted it to go a little faster. So I had to adjust this subscribe button's clip speed because the original, which you're looking at right here, is 5 seconds long. It has a click sound in the beginning and another pop sound at the end. I didn't want that pop sound at the end, so I actually shortened the length of it to get rid of it. And if you would see how long this is if I don't have it reduced. So we not only did we sped things up, but we also separated the audio, which is the track above. So I'm just going to undo what I was just doing there. And then we have the audio clip above here, which was just adjusted to fade out the audio here so we don't get the pop at the end. Two more visual assets that were added. One of those visual assets added is this little burst effect here. And if you see that, it's right here. It's another motion graphic, and there's no properties because it's just behaving the way it is. But you can see the outer frame of it is sort of adjusted because I had to play with the angle of it and the position of it to do what I wanted. And you have the ability, of course, here to change the angle. So let's just put that back to where it was. And then we had one other burst, one motion burst right here, which is the kind of like dashed white dashed lines, which aren't cooperating to show right now. There we go. You just saw them there. And those dashed lines are this motion graphic. See how interesting it is? It's 2 seconds long, and it actually executes in the other direction. So I had to do some work there, again, with this, with the orientation changed for this. As you can see, it has a minus 154.6 degrees adjustment so that I can get the lines coming in a straight across flow based on how the asset was that I got originally. Step number 5 in the process is about adjusting the execution time. Of course, this is optional, but with this particular asset conversion for branding, I wanted to shrink the time down. This original asset was 12 seconds, and I want to get down to 9 seconds or even faster. You know, it all depends. You know, today we're in the world of brevity, but because this card accomplishes so much, you know, I was okay with getting down to 9 seconds. And in the last step, you already saw that we talked about with the sound and with the subscribe button that I had used clip speed to shorten. So that was a great place to use it. And it's often a thing you need to do to adjust motion graphic assets that you get that are a fixed length, and you need to adapt them for what you're doing. The next major area where I had used the time execution element was to deal with the shapes. So I had to trim down, you know, a core amount of time in that part of that 3 seconds to get time back. And the way, you know, I wanted to do that was to trim back the timing that would, flow through the sequences here, right? So at first what I did was I put on clip speed at 1.2, so I increased the clip speed to make it run a little faster. What I found was I also wanted to, aside from the speed that it normally painted throughout, as you notice when it comes to this point here, just before the middle part ends, now it's going to do the closeout where everything shrinks up and disappears quickly. So what I did was I went in and I selected all the shape tracks. Okay, I'm not going to do this again because this is already in here. I'm just going to demonstrate what I did. I selected all the shape tracks, and at that exact moment where it gets ready to go, start to shrink, I did a split to separate the end elements here of the shapes as they were shrinking. And then in here, I just changed their clip speed to 1.33. So I increased the speed for the exit. So that's why it goes nice and quick now. And that all can be done, just by doing a batch selection. And then when you're in there, you have clip speed and you can go and universally apply it to the batch if you want. Now I've got on display the finished product. Let's give it a spin with the music in there so you can get the whole feel for the experience. Wow, it's limitless as to what you can do to modify existing library assets for personally branded solutions. To see more cool custom branded solutions like this for your video marketing, click the link on the page or in the video description below. And be sure to hit the subscribe icon on this page so that you can get more videos to learn about video editing, video marketing, and YouTube. And thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.